Hello and welcome to the I Hit Drums YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at rests within grooves. Now previously we've talked about quarter note rests and eighth note rests. Today we're going to be putting those eighth note rests to use within some grooves. Whenever you see the eighth note rest, looks a bit like that. That is going to be followed by an eighth note on its own, like that. Now this can be a snare drum or a bass drum, and we're going to actually look at both of those within these exercises. Now when it comes to rests within grooves, drum notation can often be a bit different. So for the exercises that we're going to be looking at, and the way that I like to write notation, you need to think of the cymbals as one zone and the drums as another. So whenever there's a rest within the drum zone, it doesn't affect the cymbal zone. So in all these exercises you're going to look at, we're going to have a rest within the drum zone, but we're still going to hit a hi-hat when that rest is there. So we're going to do a few grooves over at the kit to help you get started with those rests within grooves. Okay, so now you know what the eighth note rest looks like and how much space that's taking up. Let's put that into a few different grooves. These grooves are from my book, A Beginner's Guide. There's a whole lesson chapter on adding rests into grooves, and there's even a song that goes with it called Oh Yeah. So these are some of the key grooves from that song. So key groove 1, we have a rest on beat 3. So instead of this kind of groove, with the bass drum on 3 and, we're actually not going to be doing the bass drum on beat 3. So in order for that whole beat to add up to a whole quarter note, we're going to have that eighth note rest on beat 3, the little kind of squiggle, little number 7 kind of thing, or little Y, and that's going to be followed by a bass drum hit with a little tail on it, as discussed earlier, and that's going to give us this. So that bass drum is on the and of 3, so that's actually going to leave 2 hi-hats in the middle of that groove. And I would recommend that when you're playing through this pattern, try and listen out for those 2 hi-hat hits in the middle. So you can kind of think of the whole groove as boom, ba, tick, tick, boom, ba. So let's try that one a few times together, or twice maybe. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay, so let's try a slightly harder version of that groove now. This is the second key groove for the song Oh Yeah, and we're going to add another bass drum to the and of 2. So this is going to give us snare bass on the 2 and, followed by a rest on 3, and then a bass on the and then a snare on 4. So it's going to sound like this. What I often see with a lot of pupils when they try this groove for the first time is that they do the first half, and you've got that ba, boom, the snare, bass, and then when they get to the next 2 hits, which is actually bass, snare, they often repeat snare, bass, and that gives you this. Okay, so that's not right. So it's going to go boom, ba, boom, tick, boom, ba. Okay, bass, snare at the end. So again, it should sound like this. So let's try that twice together. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. So you might want to give that one a few tries just to make sure you're getting the right pattern there with the snare, bass, bass, snare in that one. Let's try a slightly trickier one. This is key groove 4 for the song Oh Yeah. So this time it's not the bass drum that's on the and position, it's actually the snare. And this is often referred to as a displaced snare. You'll have heard it in like a lot of hip hop tunes tend to use this kind of thing. Some drum and bass does this. So we're actually moving the snare drum this time. So instead of being bass, bass, snare, and then a hi-hat, boom, boom, ba, we're actually going to put in a rest on beat 2, where the snare drum often falls. So most grooves you might have played up to now, you've had a snare drum on beats 2 and 4. This is going to be shoving that snare drum on 1/8 note hit onto the and, which sounds like this. So a bit trickier. One thing to watch out for with this one is that you don't add a hi-hat after that first snare and before the next bass drum. You can see in the notation, it's going 2 and 3 and 3. There's no hi-hat in between. So you don't want to do this. Because that's actually going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. It's too long. Let's try key groove 4 a couple of times together. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and. So let's try go through those 3 grooves back to back, one into the other. We'll do each one 2 times before moving on to the next one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4 and. Okay, so those are just a few grooves that are including that rest within the groove, and hopefully you can hear how that just kind of changes the feel of the groove a bit, especially when it's on the snare drum. So when that snare drum gets moved to the and position, that has quite a big impact on the whole feel of that groove. Okay, I hope you found that useful and you're now able to tackle some of those grooves with those 8th note rests within them. We looked at 3 today. There's actually 6 key grooves to look at for the piece Oh Yeah, which features in my book, A Beginner's Guide. If you want to give that song a try, you can find my book on my website, www.ihitdrums.co.uk. If you're a total beginner on the drums and you found some of today's exercises a bit confusing, then I'd recommend that you subscribe to my website and you'll get access to a free groove starter pack. And that will actually explain a lot of the elements we looked at today. And there's 3 grooves there to help get you started and get you playing some grooves. So again, that's on my website, www.ihitdrums.co.uk. But until next time, enjoy!